How do we watch the ball in tennis? Hi, Thomas from fieldtennis.net here. Watching the ball in tennis is a very special skill, and we often hear on tennis courts, watch the ball or keep your eye on the ball, but what exactly does that mean? So in today's lesson I want to clarify that, and I'll show you how you need to watch the ball so that you make good clean contact with the ball and have good control of your shots.
Let's first take a look at how a pro watches the ball. So this is me playing with Borut Urh. He's a former ATP player. His highest ranking was around 280 on ATP. So we can have Borut hit a few balls and you can compare your perspective of what you're seeing with his perspective. So this is how Borut sees the ball. What I've done here, I've frozen the video and I wanted to check if Borut is looking at the ball in his contact point. So here, not so clearly, but the previous one you could see the racket. So obviously if we can see the racket in his field of view, that means he's really looking at the ball, he's not looking at the target. And so if we freeze, we can see that again, we can see Borut is looking at the ball well and he can actually see the racket, although in reality he would see the blur of the racket. So we've recorded a few more situations on the court when Borut is hitting volleys and smashes and serves, and you can follow the link to see how all these other shots look from his perspective.
So the key to seeing the ball well in tennis is bringing it into focus after the bounce. When the ball is traveling fast and is changing direction on the bounce, it's very hard to track it very clearly. So our eyes are not designed for tracking objects, that change direction so fast, and we have trouble tracking them. So we don't want to do that. We actually want to predict the ball's flight and see the ball come out of the bounce and then focus on it for that split second, like make a clear snapshot. So the exercise I do with players is I just toss the ball like this and I ask them, bring the ball into focus as it comes on top of the bounce. So just as the ball comes on top of the bounce, like, all right, now I see it. And by seeing it, I mean you see it clearly, with the seams and with the text and, with the fuzziness and so on. So, bring the ball into focus after the bounce. So that's the key skill in watching the ball in tennis. Okay, so the next progression in watching the ball is just trying to do what I showed you while playing mini tennis. So just try and bring the ball so the ball is coming. Okay, I see the ball, right? So try and bring the ball into focus very clearly. So now I see the ball and I miss it. So welcome to tennis. Here we go. So okay, now I see the ball. So I see the ball before, of course. And one other thing is I don't pay much attention to the bounce. I know that there might be some coaches not agreeing with me, but my experience and talking with good players, I was asking them how they watch the ball and so on. Most of them, so including me, my way of watching the ball is I don't pay much attention to the bounce. And the reason is because the ball is like changing direction very abruptly, and if I just look at the bounce, for a tenth of a second too long, if I just look there, then the ball is just going to come out and then I'm going to try and find the ball after the bounce. And I'll probably be late. So I don't want to do that. So I'm not really looking at the bounce. So I'm seeing the ball coming down and then I'm seeing the ball coming out and I'm just trying to see where is the ball going to come out. So that might be a problem if you're trying to watch the ball too much. So I want to see the bounce and the ball coming out. Then also your head might go like that, and so that's not good. So you just want to see the ball really clearly falling and then coming out, but I don't pay much attention to the bounce. I do pay a lot of attention, like the most attention is the ball coming out of the bounce. So not, from touching the ground, but a few inches off the ground. Here's the ball coming out and I'm just trying to focus on it, bring it into focus, because before it might be a little bit blurry when it's fast and traveling fast and bouncing, but as it's coming out of the bounce, I'm able to bring it into focus on most shots, unless someone plays really fast and I have to play like a half volley. Then I kind of play it blindly which is what I explained before already. So now I see the ball. So the exercise for you is, can you see the ball coming out of the bounce very clearly just before you make contact?
Let's take a look at the key points when it comes to watching the ball. The first one is the starting trajectory that begins with your opponent hitting the ball. Observe the flight of the ball from the contact until it starts to drop towards the bounce, as that will tell you really well where the ball is going to end up and at what height. The flight alone doesn't tell you much about the type and amount of spin, so in time you learn to read that based on how your opponent swung as they hit the ball. You need that information too so that you can tell how the ball is going to bounce. For example, a ball with a lot of topspin is going to shoot off the ground, and you need to know that in advance so that you can anticipate the height of the bounce and also adjust your timing, as the ball will be faster off the bounce. But for now, I just want to make sure that you're really paying attention to the first part of the flight before the bounce. When the ball is falling into the bounce and actually bouncing, it's changing direction very suddenly, so don't fixate the bounce. Just observe it with a soft focus and look for the ball coming out of it. Once you see the ball coming towards you, you need to see it really clearly for a split moment before you hit it. That's the snapshot moment. Typically this distance is at around 2 meters to about half a meter before contact. At contact you may not see the ball very clearly, but it's important to keep the head still so that you don't disrupt the stroke and pull it off the ball and therefore hit the ball poorly, meaning off center. So in summary, read the starting trajectory. Soft focus on the bounce. Really start focusing on the ball and try and take a clear snapshot close to your contact point. And 4, keep your head still as you're hitting the ball.
The next key element of watching the ball well in tennis is keeping your eye on the ball. So what happens often is, okay, go ahead. So is that we go away from the ball too quickly with our eyes. So that happens for various reasons. One might be anxiety, the other one might be you want to see the target and so on. So that's not good for tennis. In tennis, we don't look at the target. We've seen the target before while we were moving on the court, and then our focus comes to the ball and we just know where the target is. And in tennis we don't play as precisely as darts. So we're not playing at the line, so we're playing at fairly big target. And for most players it's just generally, is it cross court or is it down the line, just general direction. So we don't have to look at the target, we know where it is. And so in a way we're hitting blindly. So as we line up for the ball, and if we are watching the ball, then I don't see the target, I know where it is. So down the line is this way, cross court is this way. That's what you have to know. So that's somehow you're not seeing the target, but you have to stay calm and know where it is. And so how do we prevent coming up with the head too quickly? So there's no magic formula for me. You have to practice. So the easiest way to practice is just to drop feed and hit the ball and then look at the target. So let me show you how that looks like. So to practice keeping your eye on the ball, just drop feed the ball. So just drop the ball, hit the ball and just delay your look after the ball. So there's no one there, no one is attacking you. I'm sure you can do that. So it's your head or your eyes. So it's your choice what you're going to do. So there's no need to do this. You can say, okay, I'm going to delay for a second or half a second. So I'm going to hit the ball and then I'm going to turn and see what's happening. So one good way to know whether you're delaying your look, for long enough is to check whether you see the blur of the racket. So did you see your racket, come through your contact zone? So okay, as you see the racket, swing to your contact zone, and you say, okay, I've been, staring at this point long enough, and now I can look over. So okay, I've seen my racket, and now I can look after the ball. So you can do the same on the backhand side. Just practice, do at least 50 repetitions. So just drop, hit the ball, did I see the blur, and then look after the ball. Another good checkpoint is, for your mind, is to realize that, from your contact point, and until your service line, so like this half of the court, you did not see the ball. So if you see the ball leaving your racket already in this part, so from contact until your service line, then you're probably, you know, turning your head too quickly. So when I hit the ball well, then I look after the ball, I probably see, you know, start seeing it just after my service line, just about to cross the net. And there's still enough time, even if you're playing for points, you know, to see what's happening on the other side, to perceive your opponent, what they're going to do, and so on. So we have this feeling usually in the match because of the anxiety, and we rush things. But in reality, there is enough time to, you know, see the ball well, see the blur of the racket, look over on the other side, and you will still have enough time to react and recover and get ready for the next shot. Okay, so the next progression you should do is, you know, just rally nicely with your friend and exaggerate a little bit. So I'm looking at the ball, I see the ball after the bounce, and I'm not rushing to see what's going on the other side. So I'm just slightly exaggerating. So at first it's going to feel like an exaggeration. I see the ball, I don't rush. I see the ball, I don't rush. So another idea that comes to mind as I'm doing this is how I perceive it, is that I see the ball disappear. So as I see the ball coming and I'm hitting the ball, I actually see the ball disappear from where I'm looking at. So that's another good way to realize that you're watching the ball well. If you don't see the ball disappear, so if you're not watching the ball well, then you're just, what it seems like is that the ball is coming, then you don't see the ball, then the ball is coming from somewhere behind, and then it comes back into your field of view. That's the most common way of perceiving the ball in tennis for most players. So you're not really seeing the ball and then disappearing the ball, that the ball is disappearing, but you're just kind of losing the ball for a while, and then it comes back into your focus. So that's not a good way to watch the ball in tennis. So again, I want to see it come out of the bounce. I'm going to see it, and then, you know, the ball was just right here, and then it just disappeared. So the ball was here. So the ball was here and it disappeared. So as I see the ball disappear, I'm looking at the ball. So as I see the ball disappear, then I know I'm practicing watching the ball well. So one more thing, when I was young and when I first heard about watching the ball and so on, it took me one summer to improve that, and I played every day, maybe twice a day. So, you know, improving your tracking skills of the ball and seeing the ball better in tennis is not going to take, you know, looking at this video and then trying that tomorrow, and then, you know, I still don't see the ball well. Yes, you still don't see the ball well. For me, it took me like 3-4 months, and I was focusing on that, you know, every time I was on the court. So it has to be a very deliberate practice of doing just that, and it takes a lot of concentration. So at first you might do that only for 5 minutes. It will take so much concentration out of you when you're just trying to watch the ball, you know, and not looking over and just trying to overcome your bad habit. So it's not an easy thing to master. So the pros can do it because they've been training that since they were, you know, 5 or 6 years old. And so if you're an adult and you're a recreational player, then yes, you can improve your skills of watching the ball in tennis, but we cannot reach the pro level. We're not going to keep our head in the contact point like Roger Federer on every shot. So we can just improve our skills in watching the ball and seeing the ball better. And as we see the ball better, we're going to hit it more cleanly and have more control of our shots. But again, it's not an easy process, you know. If you're deciding at some point and you're saying, I want to improve my, you know, tracking skills in tennis of seeing the ball better, then, you know, reserve next 4 months. And just, you know, every time you come on the court and you play with your friend, you know, do that for 10 to 15 minutes. I remember for me the maximum amount of time I could do that was 20 minutes, and then I was, you know, exhausted from watching the ball. So again, just to keep in mind, it's not like a simple trick oh, I heard this online and this coach told me and now I can see the ball well. So what I can give you is I can show you the direction, but it takes some time to improve the skill of watching the ball.